You know, there's a lot of things that are happening at institutions of learning throughout our country right now. We have, well, schools, high schools, dealing with the issue of, well, textbooks. And not just textbooks and what should be in the textbooks. You know, conservatives have argued for years about, well, maybe Pearson textbooks shouldn't include anything about, well, slavery and, well, black people in general. Maybe we should just try to act like black people don't exist in America. Because if we do pretend to act as though they exist, then we'll have to talk about, well, all the atrocious things that were committed against black people in this country. So we either don't talk about it and act like it doesn't exist, but everybody sees that there's differences in our society, no matter how colorblind they are. I mean, you're colorblind, but yet you're playing monkey noises to your next door black neighbor. Make that make sense. You don't see color, right? Every time you catch them in one light, they go to another. But anyway, so you gotta look at things like this. You got a lot of things happening at institutions of learning. You got the whole Republican Party in Texas now going into, well, the school library, trying to figure out, well, if they have the V for Vendetta book. You can't have the V for Vendetta book, you know. I guess there's something about mass in there. You can't have, well, anything about Nat Turner and the slave rebellion. No, you can't learn about that. You can't learn about the Handmaid's Tale. Now this one struck me as kind of odd. Cider House Rules. No, you can't discuss Cider House Rules either. Now, a lot of these books are classic literatures, works of art, like that should be read by, well, children and adults. Because I would imagine there's a lot of adults that haven't read them. But they're just that, they're books. And, well, books help to inform someone, but they don't necessarily shape someone. See, I can read something and, well, my opinion can still not be changed. I read a lot of conservative bullshit every day online. That doesn't mean that I'm going to contemplate even the thought of becoming a conservative. I can still read it and, well, disagree with it. I like to keep up with, well, the Kardashians and the white Nazis. I'm not saying the Kardashians are Nazis. No, I'm just saying I like to keep up with what they're doing. Anyway, institutions of learning this year, well, they're going through a rough patch. Kind of rough patch that they didn't go through last year because most of the schools were remote. So you had remote learning. And there wasn't really very much complaints about remote learning outside of parents saying that their student wasn't, well, learning all that much at home. So last year people were clamoring to have the schools open. This year parents have showed up at school board meetings giving the Nazi salute. Apparently, well, you can't please the bastards when the schools are closed. And when you open the schools, you can't please the bastards. I told you, the ungrateful dead. Complaint, complaint, complaint. Do you know why we get rules, laws, ordinance, and mandates? It's because somebody came along, usually the sour cream brigade, and complained about it. Have you not seen all of these videos of Karen? Please go get me the manager. I'm going to report you to the manager. I want to make a complaint. And then will weak-kneed individuals bend over backwards to, well, their constant nagging, their constant complaining. You know the type. You know the crowd. I don't even have to mention who I'm talking about because you see them in your daily life. We all know those type of people. Believe you me, we all know those types of people. Now, institutions of learning are going through a rough patch. Currently, right now, at Howard University, well, there's a certain kind of protest going on. It's called the Blackburn Takeover. And now would be a good time to plug in that it was the socialists, along with radical black organizers, who created this whole framework of a takeover at Howard University. And it's not the fact that socialists and black radicals just decided that they wanted to take over a building at Howard University because there was no problems. No, there were long storied historical problems at Howard University, some of which is not due entirely to Howard University's fault, because you have had for a long period of time an underfunded historically black colleges in America. But of late, funding has been there. But they haven't repaired the dormitory living environment for the students. So the students are complaining of mold. They don't know what type of mold, but mold. Dilapidated housing accommodations, no furniture, unsafe living conditions. So they decided to do, what we in Seattle have come known for. They pitched tents. And, they're camping out. It's kind of like an encampment. If you come to Seattle, Howard, those students that are doing that, whenever that's wrapped up and you get the demands that you hopefully want and need, you should come out here and see, firsthand how it's done. Because we've been doing encampments for decades in this city. It's become the norm. Because, all the waterfront people, the wealthy and affluent boys, they don't want to pay any taxes. And so therefore property and people can't afford to live. And so they have to live in tents outdoors. We have an election coming up. Small detour here in the subject. We have an election coming up here in Seattle. I need everybody to vote. Vote solidly progressive. Do not vote for these, redundant individuals who want to roll the clock back on progress. We're almost there. We just need the correct people this time. And we got them. They're running. You have to get out and you have to vote. Because the stale, same old, rich, moneyed interests in this city. Amazon is working tirelessly. Microsoft is working tirelessly. Boeing is working tirelessly to try to kick you out of your apartment. Get out there and vote. And vote for the right people. Vote for people that are actually going to fight for you and not Amazon. They have enough lobbyists. Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are doing a good job lobbying for those bastards. We need advocates for ourselves. So anyway, back to Blackburn and Howard University, the takeover. So one of the demands from the Live movement, a group that's, organizing this whole Blackburn takeover, is that, they meet and have a town hall with Howard University's president. And I think that that's a perfect idea. Now, I don't often share this. When I was at university, my entire university, except for the department that I was in, didn't want to graduate myself. Now, the reason they gave for not wanting to graduate moi is that, I was too radical for the institution. That's literally what was stated. Now, I had a very beautiful department that didn't go along with what they were trying to do, and forced the issue to the point where they actually had to graduate moi. But the university did not want to graduate. this. Imagine this. This got relayed to me. I never directly heard it. But apparently, they said that, well, in the history of the institution, and it had been around for a long, long time, I was perhaps one of the most radical students that your student body has ever had at the institution. I felt honored. That was a privilege. But what we didn't have was the Democratic Socialists of America. Not in large number on campus. We didn't have any of that. We had to, well, fight an old-fashioned way with the administration and with the local police thugs on the campus. I'm telling you, you gotta always be ready for one. Now look, just the joy of seeing, without even being present, that, well, black women activists are leading from the front and making demands about the quality of education and the quality of life they want to receive while they're at an institution of higher learning that you pay thousands of dollars for. It's not like you get to live in dorm housing for free. You pay out the wazoo for that shit. I didn't live on campus. But anyway, I know people that did, and they paid good money to be there. And then you gotta pay for your meals, and you gotta pay for your textbooks. It's not cheap. You shouldn't have to sleep in mold, so to speak. And then they want, well, faculty, alumni, and board members to be reinstated back onto the board. I guess they dissolved the board. So you can't have any oversight. One of the issues that, well, got me in trouble at my institution was, well, I always wanted to call for more transparency. That was the key buzz term that I always use. Transparency. And, well, when you have the institution, well, when the president goes and takes her friends on, well, an expensive cruise, I guess, and uses budgetary funding from your institution that could have went to scholarships, of course I'm going to kind of bring that up as an issue. Not to say that I was there when that happened, but that's history. And so the next administration didn't do much better. You know, students have to complain, wage a complaint, campaign against things. That's what the student government body is all about at universities. So you have the Blackburn Takeover, where you see joy, open karaoke nights, where people are speaking their truths, sharing their stories, not backing down, demanding to be heard, have their questions asked and answered, demanding quality lifestyle and living. And that's in Washington, D.C., Howard, by the way. I've actually been on the campus. Great place, great people. I know that the Blackburn Takeover is historic in nature, especially in 2021. I think what gave me so much joy was to watch and see the activism, the tactics, the procedures by such young and gifted people. Future is in good hands. We have great leadership. The problem is, the future should be now. The leaders we have now in office, in elected office, a lot of them, well, they shouldn't be there anymore. Chuck Grassley is in his 80s. And this isn't just a Republican thing, because I can point to Democrats too in their 80s. This is one thing that I sort of kind of agreed with Lisa Rice on when she made her appearance on The View. It's time for a new generation. Just all around. Change. Because, well, the old generation is not going to get the job done. They're just not. I mean, everybody is saying, okay, boomer. We all know capitalism is collapsed. No matter how many times Mitt Romney wants to get on TV and tell us, well, it's the billionaires that hire us. Actually, billionaires don't hire anybody, and they never have. It's the companies that are subsidized by the federal government, like Walmart, and like Tesla, and like Microsoft, and like every company that you can think of has been subsidized by, the federal government. And then the gig sharing economy, those kind of companies, they've actually never made a profit. Uber never has made a profit. Lyft has never made a profit. Airbnb barely just started making a profit. All these sharing economy things, Amazon wasn't even that profitable until they finally took off. But most of them are not profitable. They're subsidized by the government. And then they have to hire people because, they're instructed to do so. But they don't want to pay you anything, so you're kind of like a slave. And that's why capitalism is collapsed. That and automation. Everybody can see robots are taking our jobs. So when people were saying they had the foresight to see way back when the universal basic income was going to be needed, or UBI, and everybody was like, no, not UBI, you can't do universal basic income. But Donald Trump can continue sending stimulus checks. We were like, you might as well make this permanent during the pandemic, because it's going to be needed. They did the child tax credit. The only problem with that is a lot of Americans don't have children. We're not in the 1950s anymore. People don't want to have children and bring them into this world in poverty when they can't even afford to pay back their student loans. Blackburn Takeover. That's something to know and watch and observe how real American patriots are changing the conversation surrounding quality of living, mental health, and transparency. All things the younger generation is clamoring for. Then you have Liberty University. And you might as well call that Liberty University Makeover, because that's what's trying to happen there. You had Jerry Falwell Jr. and Becky Falwell. They were in charge of Liberty University, a predominantly white evangelical university. And apparently, besides Becky Falwell having relations with students who are roughly a decade younger than her, he was legal, but barely. Besides that, Liberty University is experiencing some sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations. Not by one student, not by two students, not by three, not by four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight, not nine, not 10, not 11, but 12 thus far. And there's probably dozens and dozens more. We all know about, the despicable pictures of students in the fields, scantily clothed, sending that to, administrators on the Liberty University campus. The head of relations in the media recently was terminated, and he's suing Liberty University, telling them that, they should let everybody out of the NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements that they signed. And then you can have a proper investigation. You see, a number of the women on campus and students and former workers say that there's rampant sexual assault on the campus, and that when they go and report it, nothing happens because, it violates the Liberty Code, the Liberty Way. It's part of the code of the university, which basically means that, if you're a man, you can rape a woman, and that's okay under the sight of God, according to their translation of their religion. And well, so you can't solve sexual assault and sexual harassment and rape because, well, it goes against the code of conduct, the Liberty Way. Now these will be the same people, get this, the sour cream brigade will be the same people who will point their finger. This is why, lest thee judge, unless ye want to be, well, sinners yourself, something to that nature, but don't go throwing stones at glass houses. Because these will be the same fuckers who will criticize Tinseltown, Hollywood. They'll talk about how, well, how despicable that was what Harvey Weinstein did, which is true. But you're in Lynchburg, Virginia. Hollywood is on the opposite coast. From coast to coast, you're both doing the same thing. How are you going to say Hollywood is so immoral when Liberty University, the Liberty Way, is, well, rape and sexual harassment and assault? Now they're trying to say, no, we've been investigating. We've been on top of this from the very beginning. Seems like it's a makeover and not a takeover. So maybe some of the Liberty University female, well, students and workers, maybe you can get together and actually do a takeover on Liberty University. Does that go against the code of conduct, the Liberty Way, if they did a takeover? You know, a bunch of white evangelical women taking over a building on Liberty University. I'm certain that that's against, well, the code of conduct. Jesus would have none of it, I tell you. You must submit. You must be a submissive woman, according to Christianity. You must always submit to men. So if you tell them no, you don't want to have sex, you're going against the Liberty Way here. You must have sex with me. That's the Liberty Way. But apparently it's not the Liberty Way because they're investigating. Sounds like a makeover and not a takeover. You know, Howard is doing it the right way. They're demanding things. They're demanding transparency. They're demanding accountability. And they're demanding actions. They have a list of demands taped up across the building, all over the building. The artwork, the dancing, the music, the flair of it all. It's what made us great. The always probing and challenging of the system, an oppressive system run by oppressors who, well, 9 times out of 10 are men. That's kind of what formed the whole essence of socialism, of being a socialista, you know, of actually advocating for the people to get change and demands. We wouldn't have the 40-hour work week, which is atrocious now in retrospect. But we wouldn't even have that if it wasn't for the socialists. So all you people that, like, you know, Senator Ron Johnson, socialists and Marxists are coming. Well, they've already been here. You say Happy Labor Day in September. The Labor Party was the Socialist Party. You gotta go and read up on Eugene Debs. Fascinating guy. Great patriot. Great American patriot. You know, if you don't know shit, you shouldn't say shit. The Blackburn Takeover. One of the greatest events happening that's not being reported by the mainstream media. Now, I don't know. Maybe they won't let MSNBC and CNN and ABC and NBC or Fox News in. Although I doubt that that's the case. I think they don't want to go and report it because, well, it would give energy to something. Give energy to, well, another notch in the tombstone of capitalism itself. You see, if Howard University, one of the most prestigious historically black colleges in America, you have students sleeping out in tents, that doesn't look good for a capitalist country that continues to tell you, well, if you just work hard and play by the rules, you'll just get ahead. No, nowadays, you don't really want to work because, well, somebody comes into your Chipotle when you're understaffed and points a gun at you and demands that you make a burrito or else they'll murder you. That actually is a true story. Or that you get hot grease poured on you because a customer wants to violently assault you for not wanting to wear a mask. That actually is a true story too. Did you hear the story about the McDonald's workers planning a National Day of Walkout in November coming up? You know, the reason they're planning that is because of late McDonald's has had to turn to teenagers to work. 14, 15, 16-year-olds. Because, adults have tapped out. And apparently the few adults that still are in there are sexually harassing the younger female employees. And they've had it. Now, I don't know what century those men think they're in, but if you think that you can sexually harass a 14 or 15-year-old girl nowadays, boy, you got another thing coming to you. You're lucky they didn't shake your ass. But anyway, here's the thing. It's just another example of the failure, the rot of capitalism. That's what Blackburn Takeover shows us. That there's no institution left. There's no thing that holds the glue binding capitalism together. You can't make the same arguments anymore. Because, they're ineffective. They always were, but the capitalists were masters at, creating distractions for us. And now without a distraction, with the sole purpose of everybody's existence being the survival of COVID-19, you can't really tell the same old lies that worked in the 19th century and the 21st again. So you have to try to do a makeover. Liberty University is trying to do a makeover. They got a new president who's very serious about taking sexual assault allegations seriously. And they're going to do a proper and thorough investigation. It's just the fact that they terminated somebody who, actually gave an interview about the sexual assault allegations happening and confirmed it. It just so happened that they terminated that dude because they said he wasn't doing good at his job. But he only started not doing good at his job when, he went to the magazine and reported about the sexual harassment allegations not being, taken seriously at the university. Sounds like workplace retaliation. But, there's a lawsuit. Now let that be litigated in court. Liberty. For white evangelical Christians. The Sour Cream Brigade. They're doing a makeover at their university. They want to put a veneer and a mask over sexual harassment in 2021. Rampant. Christian white boys. Women are beneath them. That's what you actually believe. So I'm really shocked that you even believe in Title IX when, it contradicts your stupid cult. But, it's 2021, and when you come in front of the rest of us in the public, you have to act like at least you have to pretend like you care about sexual harassment. But you really don't. And you only point the finger at California and Hollywood to try to score cheap political points, as though you're some moral people, when we know that you're the most immoral people that ever roamed the planet. Go figure. Lynchburg, Virginia is on a makeover tour. Washington, D.C. is on a takeover tour. It's fine. People don't want to have to, take accountability, answer questions, be held responsible for, what they did and didn't do. Some people, are saying that the takeover should end. Like the president of Howard University, he's demanding that you go back to school now, that you clear the building. You must leave now. When you make a demand, power concedes nothing without a demand. Stay steadfast to the demand. Don't fucking leave anything. And that goes for these adults too with this reconciliation bill. I tried not to weigh into this, but it's getting fucking frustrating. So here goes. Everything that was supposed to be in the bill got taken out of the bill. And yet, those of us who, well, were supporting the original bill are now supposed to support a bill that has nothing that was in the original bill. That's American style reconciliation for you. Bait and switch. Put this shit in there, and then when it gets ready to be voted on, take it out because the billionaires don't like it. You know, the same billionaires that are hiding their money in NFTs and Dogecoin and meme coins. You know, those fuckers. At some point, you just have to slap the table and say, no, we're finally taxing you motherfuckers. You're lucky we don't get our forks and knives out and start eating you, but we can't get you to your bunkers yet. But if shit really hits the fan, we'll find your bunkers because, well, it's America. Everything is available to find. I couldn't be more proud of the takeover at Blackburn. The makeover at Liberty is bullshit. But everything they do is bullshit. So, until they want to actually do a takeover, you can't make over shit without a takeover. Howard, you're doing it right. Liberty, historically, you've always done it wrong. It'd be shocking if you ever got it right. Capitalism is dead as a door now, and everybody knows it. And they're panicking up there. They're saying, oh my goodness, we gotta find a way to keep the slaves happy. 4 weeks of paid family leave. It should have been 9, but it should be 4 in there, for sure. Don't fucking vote for anything unless 4 weeks of paid family leave is in there. The expansion of Medicare for dental and hearing and glasses. Gotta be in there. Don't fucking vote for anything unless it's in there. The environmental stuff should be in there. But I realize that not all of that can be in there. But it should be in there. The 2 free years of community college should be in there. But I realize maybe it can't be in there this time. A pathway to citizenship for people that served in our country. You know, all the people that say, I love the troops, I support the troops. Well, most of the troops are undocumented. You don't love them because you don't want to even put them on the pathway to citizenship. You know, all of the nurses, most of them are undocumented. You don't love the nurses and support the nurses because you don't want to put them on a pathway to citizenship. That should definitely be in there. Somebody that came to the country at 2 or 3 years old that doesn't know another country, and you're going to say they're not American. When your ass came over here in their 40s and 50s, you don't remember Staten Island? Fucked around and caught amnesia or some shit? Illegal, illegal, illegal. Who the fuck is illegal on colonized land? Stupidity. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Idiocracy. Insanity. No. You can't have a makeover before you have a takeover. Liberty University. Let everybody out of their NDAs. Let people freely speak about what's happening at the university. What's been happening at the university. You know, all the shit. I guarantee you it'll probably rival all the shit that Harvey Weinstein did. But just because it's not Hollywood, it's a sour cream institution. And you know those people like to keep things hush. They always want to point the finger at Hollywood and Tinseltown. I'm not saying Hollywood and Tinseltown are perfect. No, no place is. But don't try to act like your shit is clean. Because we look over at Liberty University and we're like, come on. Who you fooling? As they used to say, what you talking about, Willis? You know, you can't have a makeover without a takeover. Howard, you're on the right track. liberty. I don't even know if you're on the track. If you know where the track is. You know, women are so beat down and have to be so submissive to, well, their Anglo-Saxon masters that, well, they might not know where the track is. I have an idea though. Go and put in hashtag Blackburn Takeover and watch how black women are actually demanding and taking over shit. And maybe you'll grow a pair or a rib. You know, you do come from a rib according to that code. Maybe you'll grow a rib and actually do some shit and take over and not put up with shit. You know, from people who tell you the liberty way is okay because, well, you must admit, you must want to be raped. It's 2021. You need to do a takeover first before you can have a makeover.